The marble floors of the Villa Maximus gleam like mirrors in the afternoon sunlight, reflecting the opulent lifestyle that only Rome's most powerful families can afford. You find yourself walking through corridors lined with priceless Greek statues and Egyptian artifacts, each piece carefully chosen to display the wealth and cultured taste of Senator Lucius Cornelius Maximus. But what you're about to discover in this seemingly perfect patrician household will shatter everything you thought you knew about Roman honor, family loyalty, and the dark secrets that wealth can buy. Senator Maximus stands in his private study, his silver hair perfectly groomed and his toga arranged with the precision that befits one of Rome's most influential political figures. At 45, he has spent 2 decades building his reputation as a defender of traditional Roman values, a man who speaks passionately in the Senate about the importance of family honor and moral integrity. His brown eyes survey the scrolls and wax tablets that document his vast business empire, grain imports from Egypt, olive oil from Spain, and, most profitably, the slave trade that has made his family one of the wealthiest in Rome. What makes this particular afternoon different from countless others is the arrival of a new household slave, purchased just days ago at the Campus Martius slave market. You watch as Aurelia enters the study, her dark brown hair modestly covered and her blue eyes cast downward in the submissive manner expected of domestic servants. At 28, she possesses the kind of refined beauty that suggests noble birth, though her current status as property tells a different story entirely. The transaction that brought Aurelia to this villa was unremarkable by Roman standards. Another barbarian captive sold into slavery to pay for Rome's endless military campaigns. But as you observe the subtle tension in Senator Maximus's jaw when he looks at her, and the way Aurelia's hands tremble almost imperceptibly as she awaits his instructions, you sense that this is no ordinary master-slave relationship. "You will serve as personal attendant to my wife, Claudia," the senator tells her, his voice carrying an undertone that suggests this arrangement has been carefully planned rather than randomly assigned. "Your duties will include managing her correspondence, organizing her social calendar, and ensuring her complete privacy in all matters." The emphasis on privacy sends a chill through the room that has nothing to do with the afternoon breeze flowing through the villa's windows. You realize you're witnessing the beginning of a conspiracy, though its exact nature remains hidden beneath layers of Roman propriety and political calculation.
To understand how this dangerous situation developed, you must travel back 3 months to the slave market, where Aurelia's fate was sealed. The Campus Martius buzzes with the harsh reality of Roman commerce, as human beings are bought and sold like livestock. You watch as Senator Maximus moves through the crowded marketplace, ostensibly searching for household servants, but clearly looking for something specific. When his eyes fall upon Aurelia, chained with a group of prisoners taken during recent campaigns in Germania, the recognition that passes between them is unmistakable. This is not the first time they have seen each other, and the way Aurelia's face drains of color when she notices him approaching suggests their previous encounter was neither pleasant nor voluntary. The negotiation with the slave trader is brief and efficient. Senator Maximus pays far more than Aurelia's market value would justify, adding gold coins to ensure no questions are asked about the transaction or the new slave's background. What the other buyers in the market don't realize is that they're witnessing not just a purchase, but the elimination of a potential threat to one of Rome's most powerful families. As Aurelia is loaded into the senator's litter for transport to his villa, you catch a glimpse of the terror in her eyes. She understands perfectly what her new position in the household really means. She is not a servant, but a prisoner, held captive by the very man who destroyed her previous life and now controls her fate completely. The irony is devastating. The senator who speaks most eloquently about Roman virtue and the sanctity of family has bought his own victim's silence with chains and the constant threat of death. Aurelia knows that any attempt to reveal the truth about her past will result in immediate execution, probably blamed on an attempted escape or theft from the household. Over the weeks following her arrival at Villa Maximus, you observe how carefully the senator has planned this arrangement. Aurelia is given quarters separate from the other household slaves, preventing her from forming alliances or sharing information that might prove dangerous. Her duties keep her constantly visible to family members, making private conversations with outsiders virtually impossible. Most cunningly, her role as Claudia's personal attendant ensures that any accusations she might make would be seen as an attempt to destroy a respected Roman matron's reputation.
The first crack in this carefully constructed facade appears when Gaius Maximus, the senator's 20-year-old son, accidentally discovers a hidden compartment in his father's study while searching for documents related to his upcoming military commission. Inside, you watch as the young man's face grows pale while he reads through a collection of scrolls that detail activities far removed from legitimate senatorial business. The documents reveal a network of illegal slave trading operations, systematic bribery of provincial governors, and, most shockingly, the falsification of citizenship records to cover up crimes committed against Roman citizens. One particular scroll, written in his father's unmistakable hand, describes the destruction of a small Patrician family whose property was seized through forged debt documents and whose members were subsequently sold into slavery to prevent them from seeking justice. Gaius's hands shake as he reads the details of this crime, recognizing in the description of the family's daughter a perfect match for Aurelia's age, appearance, and the refined mannerisms that have always seemed inconsistent with her supposed barbarian origins. The realization hits him like a physical blow. His father has not just committed theft and fraud, but has enslaved a Roman citizen, a crime that carries the death penalty even for senators. What makes this discovery even more devastating is the understanding that the entire fortune Fornian, including the money funding Gaius's own education and military career, has been built on systematic criminal activity spanning years. Every luxury he has enjoyed, every opportunity his family's wealth has provided, every social connection that has advanced his prospects, all of it is tainted by his father's corruption and brutality. The young man faces an impossible choice: expose his father's crimes and destroy his family's position in Roman society, or become complicit in ongoing criminal activity by remaining silent. The weight of this knowledge transforms him from a carefree young aristocrat into a haunted figure struggling with questions of honor and loyalty that have no easy answers. The tension reaches a breaking point during what should have been a routine family dinner, as the Maximus household gathers in their elegant triclinium for the evening meal. You observe the careful choreography of Roman domestic life: slaves serving perfectly prepared courses, family members reclining on couches arranged according to strict social hierarchy, conversation flowing through topics deemed appropriate for patrician discourse. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, dangerous currents are building. Gaius sits in uncharacteristic silence, his eyes frequently drifting to Aurelia as she moves efficiently around the room, ensuring the family's comfort. His mother, Claudia, notices her son's distraction and his father's unusual tension, though she attributes both to the normal stresses of political life in Rome. Octavia, the 18-year-old daughter whose upcoming marriage to another senator's son represents an important political alliance, chatters excitedly about wedding preparations while remaining completely oblivious to the family crisis developing around her. Her innocent happiness creates a stark contrast to the guilt and fear radiating from the two men who share the terrible secret threatening to destroy everything she holds dear. The moment that changes everything comes when Gaius, driven by conscience and perhaps too much wine, makes a seemingly innocent comment about the importance of treating household slaves with respect because you never know who they might really be. The words hang in the air like an accusation, and you watch as Senator Maximus's face hardens with the realization that his son has discovered the truth. Aurelia, pouring wine at that precise moment, freezes at the implication of Gaius's words. For the first time since her arrival at the villa, hope flickers in her eyes. The possibility that someone in this family might be willing to acknowledge her true identity and the injustices committed against her family. But Senator Maximus recovers quickly, turning the conversation toward safer topics, while his mind works furiously to assess the threat level and plan his response. He cannot afford to have his son's newfound knowledge spread beyond the family, but he also cannot simply eliminate the young man without triggering investigations that would prove equally dangerous.
The confrontation between father and son occurs that very night in the privacy of the senator's study, where the evidence of his crimes lies hidden. You witness a battle not just between two individuals, but between competing visions of what it means to be Roman, the traditional ideals of honor and justice versus the practical realities of power and survival in a corrupt political system. Gaius enters the room with the moral certainty of youth, determined to force his father to acknowledge his crimes and make restitution to Aurelia. She is a Roman citizen, father, he declares with passion that would be admirable if it weren't so dangerous. Her family held property and position before you destroyed them. What you have done violates every principle our ancestors died to defend. Senator Maximus responds with the calculated pragmatism of a man who has spent decades navigating Rome's treacherous political waters. What I have done has preserved our family's position and secured your future, he replies coldly. Do you think the wealth that paid for your education appeared by magic? Do you believe the connections that will advance your career were built on sentiment and good intentions? The argument that follows reveals the fundamental corruption that has infected Rome's ruling class. The senator explains how survival among the patrician elite requires constant acquisition of wealth and power, how competition for resources has become so intense that families must choose between moral purity and political extinction. He describes a system where everyone commits crimes, but only the unsuccessful face punishment, where virtue is a luxury that few can afford. But Gaius refuses to accept these justifications, and his persistent moral objections force his father to reveal the full extent of his criminal network. The young man learns that Aurelia's family was just one of many destroyed to feed the senator's ambition, that bribes and falsified documents have corrupted elections and legal proceedings across multiple provinces, that the family's wealth is built on systematic exploitation of the very citizens they are supposed to serve. The discovery transforms Gaius's understanding of his entire world. Every triumph his father achieved in the Senate, every social advantage their family enjoys, every future opportunity that seemed to be his birthright, all of it is revealed as the product of criminal conspiracy rather than legitimate success. The weight of this knowledge proves more than Gaius can bear alone, and you watch as he makes the fateful decision to approach Aurelia directly, seeking to understand the full scope of the injustices committed against her family. Their clandestine meeting takes place in the villa's garden during the quiet hour before dawn, when the household sleeps and only the guards patrol the perimeter. What emerges from their whispered conversation is a story of systematic destruction that began 3 years earlier. Aurelia reveals that she was born Aurelia Lucilla, daughter of Marcus Lucilius, a minor patrician who owned fertile land outside Rome that Senator Maximus coveted for his own agricultural investments. When legitimate offers to purchase the property were refused, the senator employed forgery and bribery to create false debt documents that forced the family into bankruptcy. "My father tried to fight the false claims in court," Aurelia tells Gaius, her voice breaking with remembered pain. "But every magistrate had been bought, every witness intimidated or eliminated. When the bailiffs came to seize our property, my father chose to fall on his sword rather than live as a beggar. My mother died of grief within a month. I was sold to cover the fabricated debts." The revelation that his father is not just a thief, but effectively a murderer, shatters Gaius's remaining illusions about their family's honor. He understands now that Aurelia's presence in their household serves multiple purposes. She is both a living trophy of the senator's ruthless efficiency and a constant reminder to any who might discover the truth that resistance leads only to destruction and enslavement. The political implications of this family scandal become clear when Senator Maximus is forced to address rumors circulating in the Senate about his business practices. You observe him in the Curia Julia, standing before his fellow senators with the practiced confidence of a skilled orator, defending his reputation against whispered accusations that have begun to threaten his political position. The speech he delivers is a masterpiece of misdirection and emotional manipulation. He speaks passionately about the sacrifices required to maintain Roman greatness, the difficult decisions that leaders must make to protect their families and their city. He portrays himself as a victim of jealous rivals who seek to destroy him because of his success. And he calls upon traditional Roman values of loyalty and honor to shield himself from investigation. But you can see in the faces of his audience that suspicion has taken root. Several senators shift uncomfortably when he speaks of family honor, and more than one pair of eyes studies him with the calculating gaze of political predators, sensing weakness. In Rome's cutthroat political environment, any hint of scandal can trigger a feeding frenzy that destroys careers and lives with ruthless efficiency. The most dangerous moment comes when Senator Gaius Flavius, a longtime rival, rises to ask pointed questions about the source of Maximus's recent wealth and the circumstances surrounding several property acquisitions in his home province. The inquiry is couched in language of concern for proper procedures and legal compliance, but everyone present understands it as a direct challenge to the senator's integrity. Senator Maximus deflects these questions with practiced skill, but you can see sweat beading on his forehead as he realizes that his criminal activities have attracted the attention of enemies powerful enough to pursue formal investigations. The Roman legal system may be corrupt, but it still responds to political pressure, and senators with sufficient influence can force uncomfortable truths into the light.
The crisis deepens when the family gathering that evening erupts into open confrontation, as the strain of maintaining their terrible secret finally overwhelms their ability to preserve domestic harmony. Claudia, who has spent weeks observing her husband's increasing nervousness and her son's strange behavior, demands answers about the tension that has poisoned their household's atmosphere. "I know something is wrong," she declares, with the authority of a Roman matron accustomed to managing complex family affairs. "Your father jumps at every sound, you barely speak at meals, and that slave girl watches us all like she's memorizing our faces for some future reckoning. I will not tolerate this uncertainty in my own home." The revelation that follows destroys Claudia's understanding of her entire adult life. When Gaius, driven beyond endurance by the weight of his knowledge, reveals the truth about his father's crimes and Aurelia's true identity, his mother's world collapses in real time, Everything she believed about her husband's character, everything she thought she knew about the source of their wealth and status, everything she had planned for their children's futures, all of it crumbles into lies and blood money.
Aurelia's response to this family crisis demonstrates the courage and intelligence that have sustained her through years of slavery and degradation. Rather than passively accepting her fate or simply seeking personal revenge, she begins developing a plan that could bring justice, not just for herself, but for all the victims of Senator Maximus's criminal enterprise. Using her position as Claudia's personal attendant, she gains access to the villa's correspondence and financial records, carefully documenting evidence of ongoing criminal activities that could interest prosecutors. Her familiarity with Patrician society allows her to identify potential allies among the senator's political enemies, rivals who would be delighted to use solid evidence of corruption to destroy a competitor. What makes Aurelia's strategy particularly dangerous is her understanding of how Roman politics really works. She knows that accusations without proof will be dismissed as slave rebellion, but comprehensive evidence presented through the right channels could trigger investigations that even senatorial influence cannot stop. Her plan requires careful timing and absolute discretion, because discovery would mean immediate execution for herself, and probably Gaius as well. The most crucial element of her scheme involves reaching Gaius Flavius, the senator who has already shown interest in investigating Maximus's activities. If she can provide him with documentary evidence of specific crimes, including the falsified debt records that destroyed her family, he will have the political ammunition needed to pursue formal charges through the praetor's court. But executing this plan requires enormous personal risk. Aurelia must find ways to copy sensitive documents without detection, establish communication with external allies while under constant household surveillance, and maintain her facade of submission while secretly organizing the destruction of her captors. A single mistake will cost her life and condemn any co-conspirators to similar fates.
The situation becomes even more volatile when word of the growing scandal reaches the household slaves, creating the possibility of a domestic uprising that could turn political embarrassment into physical danger for the entire family. You observe as Cassius, the head slave who has served the Maximus household for over a decade, quietly approaches other servants with whispered conversations about loyalty, justice, and the changing balance of power within the villa. The revelation that their master has enslaved a Roman citizen creates particular outrage among slaves who themselves came from noble families destroyed by war or political persecution. Many of them recognize that their own situations differ from Aurelia's only in the specific methods used to strip them of their freedom and dignity. If one illegally enslaved citizen can seek justice, what opportunities might exist for others who have suffered similar fates? Cassius proves to be a master of slave politics, carefully building a network of potential supporters while avoiding detection by the family or their loyal servants. He understands that successful slave resistance requires meticulous planning and perfect timing. Premature action will result in crucifixions for all involved, while waiting too long may allow the family to escape consequences through flight or political intervention. The breaking point comes when Cassius approaches Gaius with an offer of alliance that could change everything. "Young master," he says during a carefully orchestrated private meeting, "you seek justice for one wronged citizen, but we seek justice for many. Perhaps our goals are not so different as they might appear."
The final collapse of the Maximus family begins when Aurelia successfully delivers her evidence to Senator Gaius Flavius, triggering a formal investigation that cannot be stopped through normal political channels. You watch as praetors arrive at Villa Maximus with legal documents authorizing the seizure of financial records and the questioning of household members under oath. The scene that unfolds is both dramatic and inevitable. Senator Maximus attempts to maintain his dignity as his private study is systematically searched and his most sensitive documents are carried away for examination. Claudia retreats to her chambers in hysterical denial, alternately weeping for her ruined social position and raging against the ungrateful slaves who have destroyed her family. Octavia's engagement is immediately canceled when word of the investigation reaches her fiancé's family, eliminating her chances for an advantageous marriage and condemning her to social exile. But the most significant moment comes when Aurelia is formally questioned by the praetors and her true identity is legally acknowledged. The restoration of her citizenship represents more than personal vindication. It demonstrates that even Rome's most powerful families cannot escape justice when their crimes are exposed through proper legal channels. Gaius faces his own moment of reckoning as investigators examine his role in concealing his father's crimes. His cooperation with the prosecution earns him lenient treatment, but his family name is permanently stained by association with systematic corruption. His military career is finished before it begins, and his social connections evaporate as former friends distance themselves from the scandal. The household slaves who supported Aurelia's quest for justice are rewarded with their freedom, while those who remained loyal to their corrupt masters face uncertain futures as the family's property is liquidated to pay restitution to victims. Cassius emerges as a leader among the newly freed slaves, organizing them into a mutual support network that will help them navigate the challenges of citizenship in Roman society. Senator Maximus himself faces exile rather than execution, his senatorial rank providing some protection even as his wealth and political influence disappear completely. But his punishment extends beyond legal consequences. He must live with the knowledge that his own choices destroyed everything he claimed to value most, turning his family from respected patricians into cautionary examples of corruption's inevitable consequences. As you watch the once mighty Villa Maximus being stripped of its treasures and sold to pay court-ordered damages, you understand that you have witnessed more than just the fall of a single corrupt family. This scandal represents the ongoing struggle between justice and power that defines Roman society. A reminder that even the most carefully constructed criminal enterprises eventually face reckoning when their victims find the courage to demand truth over silence.